Hey Bayou family, thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you enjoy our service on conflict resolution in your homes, and make sure to join us next week. If you have any questions that you would like to be answered, you can email us and I'll leave the email below and we will answer your questions.
I'll do this part.
No, I'm going to do that part.
No, I want to do that part.
No, I'm going to do it.
You always just do what you want.
No, let me read it.
Okay. We're just joking. Oh.
All right, Bayou family, we're missing you. Here we go, conflict resolution.
We're going to talk a little bit today about disarming some triggers and also about good, clear communications. I think it's so difficult at times for couples when they first get married because we just don't know how to talk to each other.
You just don't know.
I didn't know how to talk kindly.
To say the least.
Because
this is going to be fun.
at my house, when I grew up, my mom and dad got
Hold up, I get to talk back now.
You do.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Usually in church, she has to just take it.
It's not happening today.
We get home and she, all right, yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. It's too late then. I done said it.
Now I get to talk.
She gets to talk back.
Okay,
now.
here we go. Sorry.
So one of the issues is we have to remember that we're a team, right? The Bible says we're two or more gathered in His name. He's in the midst of them. And so a husband and wife become a majority in the spirit world. And when we stand together, we pray together, whatever we bind together, God's going to bind for us. And whatever we lose, God's going to lose. But it's important that we understand that I can bind peace in my home by releasing frustration and hurt and hurtful words. I can destroy the peace of my home and I can hurt my wife. And when I do that, we're no longer together. And the grace and the peace of God can't flow like it should through the family. So we want to talk about a little bit about disarming triggers. And we're going to talk about that, but one of the things is you have to have clear communications in order to be able to take away these bombs inside of us. One of the first things is when we first got married, I used to love to tell this story. People would say, well, did you cook, your wife cook? I said, no, I cooked. They said, oh, what made you want to cook? I said, I got hungry, she couldn't. And she told me.
However.
I did that for probably a couple of years. I told that
yes,
story.
And finally I said, I know you're picking, but, some people don't know that I can cook. People think that I can't cook and that I know you're joking, but a lot of people don't know you're joking. Because, let me just set the record straight. Because I would cook. Now, I was raised in North Louisiana, so I cooked hamburgers and anything that has to do with hamburgers. Hamburger helper, which you didn't like. So
yeah, hamburger helper.
Spaghetti.
I love the steak when she cooked it.
Yes, but I wasn't raised with the shrimp and all that, so he cooked that. But I would cook and have a meal, and then he would come home. This is when my kids were little. He would come home and it wouldn't be what he wanted, so he would just cook something else. So one day I just realized, why am I cooking? I don't need to cook. That makes it easier on me when he likes to cook. It's something that he likes to do. So we had to get to that communication about things.
Well, because it wasn't that I liked it and she didn't like it. And it was that I would like what I wanted. And so instead of me telling her, well, hey, I want to cook this tonight, I'd be in my mind thinking I'm going to do this. I get home and she'd cook something else. And instead of me saying, well, I'm just going to eat what she cooked because I didn't say anything and that's the right thing to do. I had already worked up in myself, I want this. And so we started.
You have to communicate.
That's right.
Sometimes I'll have a taste for something and I'll say, hey, won't you cook this? And I like to cook when my kitchen's clean and my house is clean. I like to cook soups and chilies and stuff like that.
And she does a great job. She really does. Not as good as me, but she does a great job. and I enjoy.
This is true. I don't cook as good as him.
But it's because I enjoy it, and she doesn't.
And I don't.
But that was an issue because we were first married. We didn't know how to talk to each other. It didn't come easy to me to share how I felt, because my mom and dad, when I was little, when they discussed disagreements, there was intense fellowship going on at home. In other words, they got loud. Now, my mama's going to see this and she's going to tell me to shut up. But it's the truth. I got Stacy and Neil can confirm it.
So when he would get loud, I shut down because we didn't get loud. We didn't holler and scream at each other. If we was hollering and screaming, there was guns coming out. Or I mean, there was something really bad going on.
Oh, yeah, they don't play. They country. If they ain't gonna holler nothing, they gonna shoot somebody.
So when when he raised his voice, then I just shut down and I wouldn't talk at all.
Now I never hollered at her, but I did get loud. But that was just because that's what I am, right? I mean, I get loud. Y'all been around me, y'all know. So, but it wasn't that I was mad at her. But I mean, she would say stuff to me like, "Well, I'm gonna go back in the back and pray for you." I said, "For what?" She said, "Well, obviously you're upset." I said, "I ain't upset. I'm just talking. I'm sorry. Don't be praying about me."
So those 5 years that he talks about in his message that he prayed for my attitude because his attitude was wrong, I was praying for him for 5 years.
Was you? Thank you, baby. See, God heard her prayers. Finally, she got some faith. And God helped us. But that's part of the issues. So part of the problem that I had was inside of me, there were some struggles, right? And so one of the things, and I put together it's a kind of a marriage seminar several years ago, and I had it lined up. One of the things that I had was disarming triggers, because in each of us, every pain, every disappointment, every struggle, every heartache that comes against us has a tendency to dig into our hearts. Every time someone says a mean word to you, or every time somebody lets you down, or they break your heart, when you're a kid growing up and you have boyfriends or girlfriends and you want them to love you and they cheat on you. And so that hurts. And so what we do is we deal with things on the inside to protect us from being hurt again. I grew up and I was very insecure growing up. I've shared the story where my older brother told me I was extra. Now, he didn't mean anything by it, but I felt like I was nobody. And so I always felt like nobody mattered, that I didn't matter. And if I didn't show up, nobody cared. I mean, I remember a time my mama fixed all of our plates, and I got to my hamburger, and it was just 2 pieces of bread. All the rest of them were eating hamburgers. I had 2 pieces of bread. Yeah, thank you. I was so sad. Y'all can see it's affected me. Because I like my food, okay?
He will make sure you get that.
I get my hamburger and might get yours too. So anyway. So we look at that. So it's the disarming these triggers, these things that we struggle with, because we've put this inside of us, and it's so that nobody ever hurts us again. And that's a pain. I mean, it's a struggle. So many people, a lot of you out here have had relationships that you have self-destroyed. They didn't do anything to you. You didn't give them a chance to. The minute you began to feel anything toward them, you destroyed the relationship because you wasn't going through that again. Well, these are bombs that are inside of us, and we have to disarm them if we're going to have a successful marriage where we can sit down with each other and walk through things and not be always on the offensive or on the defensive, always taking everything personal. So one of the that we understand these deep triggers, that they're inside of us because of our friends or family. They've hurt us. We have failed relationships, disappointments from people. We've sworn to our own hurt that this will never happen again. And with that, doors are closed, walls are built, and minds are laid. And God have pity on the one who sets off a trigger. It is through understanding this we can look back and find a way to disarm all of these bombs to stop self-destructing in our relationships and not allowing the past to ruin the future. So that's part of what I want to talk about. Hebrews 12, 14 and 15 says, follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord, looking diligently, lest any man fall of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness spring up troubling you, and thereby many be defiled. And that's kind of when we first got married. It was just us 5 years of marriage before we had children. And I was learning that. I believe that was God ordained, because I had a lot of growing up to do. I had a lot of triggers inside of me. I had the insecurities that I felt anytime she didn't say, what I needed to hear. I automatically heard the opposite. And I didn't know, we did the love languages.
It helped us a lot.
It helped us a lot. We both knew what the other's love language was, though, didn't we?
We did. I guess it made it better to understand each other.
More tangible,
Yeah. So if you haven't done the 5 love language test, you can go online and do that 5 love language
It's free.
test. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free. Because
That's
his is words of affirmation and mine is
Acts of service.
yes. Help me around here. And the women say, y'all better put an amen on that little test.
And all you guys know, y'all been to my house, y'all know I help. I cook. She just said so. I don't clean though. She has to take care of it. But it's worth it, because it's some really good food I'm throwing out. I cooked for Amanda. Amanda, you enjoyed your birthday food? So yes, amen. She had a crawfish boil. And so then she wanted me to take all the stuff that was left over and make her a soup. So I have a crawfish boil bisque. Ooh, I'm talking about, come on somebody. And so that's what I do. And so this root of bitterness that it's talking about. So I think so many married couples allow themselves, this root of bitterness is in them because they've been hurt by people, and they don't allow things to come out, because instead of talking about it, they just lock it inside.
They keep it buried.
Yeah. And in your relationships growing up, there were things that happened to you that when we got married, I didn't know. There were tender things for you, and I just boiled right over the top of them, act like it wasn't a big deal. And I had a hard time affirming her, because to me, what she was struggling with was silly, because I didn't struggle with it. And to her, looking at what I was struggling with, she thought, why would you struggle with that? Right? And so it was important that I understood that if she's hurting, it doesn't matter if I understand it or not. She's hurting. My responsibility is not to dismiss her hurt or to make her feel bad that she hurts, but it's to allow her to figure out why she's hurting and then help her get through that. That's part of that disarming these triggers. But it's to understand that if I don't, then that root of bitterness, which defiles me.
And learning how to communicate is a huge, huge part. And as you grow in a marriage, you learn more. Because when you first get married, you're learning, and you have to sit down and talk. You have to share and open up, because a lot of times we hide things because we don't want the other person to feel bad because we did this or whatever. But as you grow and you learn each other, then there'll be times where you don't even have to say nothing, because you know what the other person's thinking, because you're thinking it too, because you've been around each other for so long. You can just give them that eye, and you just know what each one are saying. So communication is a huge thing, and to make yourself communicate even when you don't feel like it.
Well, and I think that's for guys. I think that's difficult, because we've always been taught growing up, shut up, don't nobody want to hear you whining. That my daddy, when Stacy fell and hurt herself, picked her up, said, "Oh, you poor thing, tell Daddy about it." I cried. He said, "Well, put some dirt on it, shut your crying up." And so, girls can go, y'all are taught from just a young age to get your friends together and discuss your feelings. This boy hurt you, and if a boy hurts you, then all your friends hated him.
Amen.
Because y'all wouldn't talk about it.
I'm joking.
Because y'all wouldn't talk about it. A girl hurt a guy, we go over there and get drunk, and we'll go beat the guy up and not talk about how it made me feel. Because if I go into the locker room and say, hey guys, can I talk to you about how I feel? They tell me I was one room down. Girls' locker room where I belong. And so I wasn't taught how to communicate that. I wasn't taught how to go and say, that hurts my feelings. And that's one of the things that I have discovered that most men don't know how to say that because, well, that was my little kid. But yeah. We all are. We're still that same kids inside of me that didn't want to be disappointed. The same kid that felt like he was marginalized, shoved to the side, still lives in me. I've had to learn to overcome that and not believe the lie that old nature wants to tell me. And when Sister Janet understood my love language of words of affirmation, she would tell me, man, you do that so well. You did a good job with that. See, for me, I was always telling her all this great stuff. And she was thinking, I could care less about that, punk. Help me around the house.
Help me do something.
And for me, she'd do all this stuff for me and smile. And I'd think, I don't care about none of that. I want you to tell me how much you love me and how much value I have. Because I didn't get value except someone else would tell me, And so I needed her to give me value. And so I had to learn when we began to communicate and talk about that. And she said that I didn't realize it, but when she didn't value me, then I felt unloved. I felt it was the opposite of love. I felt hated. And that's the thing with words of affirmation when you don't tell them, affirm them with love, but it's just, I hate the way you do. You don't do that right. You're not good at this. You don't do this. That's saying I hate you to a person whose love language is that. And when you walk over something at the house and your wife watches you step right over that dirty clothes that you should have picked up, you're saying to her, I hate you.
Amen. I shouldn't have to ask you to pick up your stuff.
Yeah, isn't that strange?
Come on.
You think, right?
But I had to learn how to ask you to do things because you don't see it.
I don't.
You just don't see things that need to be done.
I'm not scared of that piece of clothes on the floor. I can walk right over, it doesn't bother me. It just doesn't scare me a bit. As long as I got something else in the cabinet I can put on, I don't need that. It's not till I have nothing left that I'm in a bind. But that never happens because you always take care of me.
Take care of you.
Yeah, see, she's good to me.
Right.
But now, because I understand that that's who she is. So what happens now, because I still can battle with insecurity. And so, I keep it underfoot where it belongs, but I talk to her and I ask her, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And we talk back and forth about it. But we had to learn when she walked into the house one day and she says, can you help me around here? And she said, I'm kind of a tone. And I said, sure.
Me, a tone. Okay.
I said, sure. I said, what do you need? Well, you can vacuum in here. Can't you see it needs vacuuming? I said, no. So she walked out. I picked and I vacuumed everything. I picked the couch up on one end, vacuumed under it, picked up the other end, vacuumed. I got the whole room, did it quick. She come back in there and looked around and said, why haven't you done that before? I said, it's the first time you ever asked.
And I'm like, oh, now all I have to do is ask.
What she said was, why should I have to ask? I said, did you help me in the yard yesterday when I was mowing? She said, no, you didn't ask me to. She stopped, thought about it, said, okay. And I didn't ask her because I didn't need help. And I thought, well, if you need help, you should ask. Because that's what people do, right?
Yeah, right. Amen.
I didn't understand that part of the working together is understanding these are the things that are expected. And I should be a part of that without having to be asked. And she knows that I don't have to say, hey, did you see I did this? Did you see I did this? She sees I did that and says, hey, I really appreciate that. That's part of that communication is going back and forth. But it's on both sides. There's times when she says, hey, we need to talk. This happened and I don't understand, or I didn't like this. I used to tell people.
Now I say, I know you didn't mean it. But this is what you said, and this is what it made me feel like. I know you didn't mean it that way.
And she's right, because I would
what
never.
What did you mean?
Yeah, and we learned that the first time I learned that lesson. She said something, and I thought she said something that she was trying to pick a fight. Well, that's not her character. So I said, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say, could you please repeat that? Because it sounded like you wanted to fight. She laughed, said, well, of course not. She told me what she said. I said, oh, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Sometimes I hear through a filter. You ever hear through a filter?
Sometimes.
I hear what I think you mean.
Mm-hmm. And you let your mind just play.
Not what you said. Because I know what you meant when you said it. A lot of y'all have to go, I'll point the finger at everybody else. But you too.
So when you were talking about this, texting, let's just bring that up.
Woo-hoo! Yeah.
You're texting something, and you think, and now you're reading it, and you're reading it.
She was mad at me when I left this morning. Go ahead.
Okay, but I really was. So, look, pick up the phone and call people.
Yeah, because she
Not
sent a
just
text.
family, but people.
Everybody.
Yeah, sometimes you do. If you're texting something, people may read it the wrong way. Especially if there's an issue, call them on the phone. Okay.
I thought you told me to stop.
Oh, 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, well, here's the deal. The deal is if, like I left in the morning and I was frustrated with her. And I didn't say nothing because, I ain't going to start no fight. I get in the car and she sends me a text. Don't forget this. What am I, dumb? Huh? She thinks I'm dumb? Now I can't remember nothing? I remember that. Now, I'm spending the rest of the day, I'm frustrated because she thinks I'm dumb. Because she sent me a text telling me to remember this. But then I look back on my text and I sent her text, hey, remind me of this. And I forgot, but I was frustrated.
Yeah.
Or she said, how many of y'all know when it's all capital letters, what that means? Yeah, it means your capital stuff. It means your capital stuff.
Capital stuff for some people.
Yeah, because
someone says, I don't know how to text.
Because everything they send is capital letters. And hey, love you. What are you mad about?
That means I really love you when they
Does it?
do.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought that was just that capital letter must be stuck because everything they send is capitalized. But so the process, right?
We're gonna get to the next scripture because if you don't, we ain't never. He's
Oh,
got a bunch of scriptures.
Well, all the scriptures run along with the same part.
Okay.
It's about the bitterness and about not letting. In Psalms 139:23 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in thy way everlasting." That's part of the process of disarming these triggers. Is saying, God, I need you to search me. Because there's times I get mad about something, but it doesn't match what was done. Like, you say something and I wish you would do that. Well, I wish you would quit and just blow up, And you're thinking, why am I so mad? That was a simple thing, but I'm really mad about it. I need to ask myself, why? What made me get that angry about something that simple? Because there's a root to that. It's that root of bitterness that's creeping through me about something else. Because a lot of times we're not even mad about what that person did. We're mad about something else, but there's an insecurity, a struggle. There's times of the year, the first few years my dad passed away, I would find myself around the same time that he passed away. He passed away December the 8th. And I remember struggling. I didn't realize I was struggling. But the 10 years after he'd passed away, we're coming up to it. I'm on edge and we're talking. I just get all crazy. And she's thinking,
what is wrong with you?
And she said, Thompson, and she's got on to me, which isn't really in her character. And I said, well, maybe I miss my daddy. Because then she cried and made me feel like a jerk. Because she hadn't thought about it. But it had been 10 years. In the 9th year, I wasn't that messed up. But it came in waves. But it was right about the time he'd passed away. And so that was in my heart, and I hadn't dealt with it really. I still struggled with why God would let him go at a young age. And so I find that sometimes when, in our early part of our marriage, when she would say, I would ask her a question and she would kind of be dismissive, it reminded me how some other girls who broke up with me, right about the time that we're going to get ready to break up with me, they were being very dismissive. And so I remember that after we broke up, that they treated me that way right before that happened. And so when she would say or do anything that made me feel that way, it wasn't that she said anything about not wanting to be with me, but it made me feel that emotion. And because I felt that emotion, it brought those memories back, which made me angry. And I began to take that anger out on her. And it wasn't her fault. But we didn't talk about it. I didn't tell her, when you say that to me, it makes me feel like you don't love me, you don't want to be with me. Because when I learned to do that, she'd say, that's ridiculous. I love you with all my heart. Why would I want that? I said, I don't know. But the funny thing is, not funny, haha, but funny, interesting, is
Okay, go ahead.
when we would talk about it, the power of that thing was broken. It no longer could manipulate me because I exposed that hurt. I took that bomb out. God searched me, showed me. He did. I showed it to her, and she helped me with her loving words to take all the triggers off. And now they don't blow up anymore. I don't have that struggle anymore because we dealt with it together through communications. I remember when she was getting ready to start LaSalle, Louisiana School of Ministry. She said, I don't know if I should. I hadn't been in school in so long. I just encouraged her, man, you can do that. You can do all this. You have great knowledge, great. And so she entered into it kind of a little apprehensive, but man, she just finished all the courses all the way through the ordination, and it built her self-confidence up because she didn't like high school. I didn't like school as far as the classes. I like people. I didn't like the classes. You failed it. You failed that.
I didn't fail nothing. What are you talking about?
History.
I did not fail.
Oh, you got mad and hit me because I said something about that.
Oh, we might need to delete this part.
It's okay.
I didn't fail nothing.
She didn't fail, but she wasn't.
I made a bad grade. Who didn't make a bad grade?
In American history.
Okay, let's talk about
So-
math.
so-
Let's talk
Whoa,
about.
whoa. Let's don't throw
let's
English
talk
at me.
about
Don't throw English at
science.
me.
Let's
No.
talk about all these other things.
American history is good though. So obviously I liked American history and nothing else in school. But
I did not fail. I graduated
she
from high
did.
school.
She graduated with a GPA. And so yeah,
Okay.
Okay, we gotta bring it back. She's crazy, y'all. She's crazy. And so, but as we began to take away the power of that, we began to pray. I found myself praying, God, search me, oh God. It's
Sorry.
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
She had to walk away.
You have a GPA.
She's gonna find her GPA.
Okay. Go ahead.
And so we have in here also Deuteronomy 8:2, Psalms 51:5-7, 2 Corinthians 3:18. All of these are dealing with ask God to help us. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, but we all with open faces behold as in a glass the glory of the Lord are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. It's that process of being changed, of asking God to look at us and do it, that we begin to take all those triggers. We begin to find the hidden things, and God begins to give us the ability, as we're changed into His image. I become more thoughtful, more loving, more attentive to my wife. She becomes more able to read beyond the outer exterior of me. And the more we press into where God is, the more unity and harmony there is between us, to where we don't have to argue about foolishness. And instead of choosing to argue about anything, we choose to discuss it, so that these underground triggers, I'm sure there are still things deep buried inside of me that I've never had to deal with. I buried them. But most of the major things in my life, God's brought them to bear in my life. And if it hadn't been for her, there's several of them, I don't know if I'd have made it through. But because she was there to love me through it, to encourage me through it, even to challenge me through it, to have a kiss time, just quit your whining. There are times when she told me, you just need to man up, you need to deal with it. That I said, well, okay, But then she stood there with me, she didn't just belittle me. She encouraged me. And that's part of that process. And for her, when when we first got married, we would go to churches and she would go sit on the pew and just sit there. She wouldn't talk to nobody. And there was times she'd get up to sing and she would just blow the doors off the place. And everybody would go find her afterwards, talking about how great that was. But she was so kind of bashful about that. She just didn't want.
Shy.
She was so shy.
I'm not no more.
She was the baby. And so now, I mean, we'd been married 3 or 4 years, and we were at a wedding for Eddie
Was it
and
Eddie
Margie.
Margie's wedding?
She's in the back of the little church, the Baptist church in Urania.
Greeting people when
She's
they come in.
greeting as they come through the door, man.
And I
just thank-
realized, why am I greeting people?
Yeah, that's in our church, you know. But she's back there. She just, but it just helped pull out in her. But it's that process. I just encouraged her, and I told her, hey, you can do anything, and you can do this, and it's that positive stuff. But we had to come to a place, and we didn't do it well. We haven't done it well all of our marriage, but here we are now, going on 34 years in June that we've been married and together. It'll be 35 and a half, almost 36 years that we've been together. And, you know, we've grown in the ability, but it's because we've given each other permission to be honest. I can tell her I don't like something and she didn't get all crazy on me, because she can. But, look at her. And she can tell me something and I don't soil up and get like a crybaby and go throw a fit. Well, we can discuss it. And she tells me, well, I don't like it when you say this. And I say, well, what should I have said? Because that's important. It's important to know. Not just that she doesn't want me to say this. Because if I said to her, you know, you shouldn't talk to me that way, then she says to me, well, how should I have said this?
Right.
I can't say, oh no. I don't know is not the right answer. If I don't like something someone else is doing, I need to know why I don't like it and what they can do differently. Because if I say something dumb to you or about you in public, then you need to be able to confront me and say, because confrontation is not a bad thing.
No.
It's supposed to be good. It's how you choose to do confrontation.
Right.
If you choose to just you.
Tone of voice and attitude.
Attitude reflects leadership.
Those two things you have to be careful with.
Yeah, you do. And so in conflict resolution, we understand that if I have a problem with her, I need to be able to articulate that problem in a way that she's going to understand. That's why I have to understand.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and
I have to learn how to speak to him.
she has to learn what words matter to me, and how to speak into my life and me her. And so this conflict resolution teaches me that if there's something wrong, I need to confront it. But I need to confront it in a godly. What is my end? What am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to win an argument, or am I trying to heal an issue? If I'm just trying to win an argument, well then I need to keep my mouth shut. But if I'm trying to resolve a problem so that we have a better relationship, then I should confront that in the way that God would want me to. And not in a way, I'm right and you're wrong and you're going to admit it. But in a way of, hey, there's a better way to do this so that we can be better off.
Well, we hope you have enjoyed, and we hope you've laughed if we leave that part in there.
We will.
Because it's funny. I have a GPA, y'all.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell what GPA was. That's probably.
It's a good one. You don't even know.
It's like your age. I'm going to tell that either.
All right, so I hope that you will join us next week. Next week we're going to have a drive-in service at church at 8:30 and 10:30.
Yes.
Yes, 8:30 and 10:30. And just keep looking at our Facebook post, our YouTube channel there, and we will keep you updated on things that are happening. Hopefully we'll be able to come together really soon and have a celebration service and get to hug everybody.
Yeah. Yep. And just so y'all know, my GPA, I was in the top 5% of the lower 90 of my graduate class.
Okay, and don't forget, check it out, 6 at 6. That's 6 minutes of information at 6 o'clock each day Sometimes we don't do the whole 6, but
it's
sometimes we go over
it's,
like me.
6 days at 6 o'clock,
Yes.
6 at 6.
6
We're
at
gonna have something for y'all. No more than 6 minutes, so that way y'all don't have to worry about us abusing you.
All right. We love you, Bayou family. Till next time.
Bye bye.
I ain't never did no 6 days at 6. Mom was right, not you.
Y'all don't do